Hello and welcome to MetLife TTX Talks. For those that tuned in last year, hello again. And for those tuning in for the first time, my name is Katie Linendahl, and I'm so thrilled to be back with MetLife and introducing the first of many TTX conversations. Just a little brief background. My background is proudly in IT, and I am best known for my work as a consumer technology expert on top TV outlets, including The Today Show, Rachel Ray, and The Weather Channel, just to name a few. And as I noted, today is exciting because it's the first of many TTX conversations. And we're going to kick things off with Bill Pappas, Head of Global Technology and Operations at MetLife, and he's moderating with our very first guest. So allow me to introduce her. Dr. Raven Baxter, or better known as Raven the Science Maven, is a renowned molecular biologist and leader in science education. She's known for her unique and entertaining style of merging science with pop culture. She also hosts a STEM-themed talk show called Stembassy, where she notes she likes to, quote, joyfully disrupt traditional cultural perceptions about scientists. She's also passionate about advancing the next generation of STEM and is the founder of the Science Haven, a nonprofit helping underserved communities achieve their STEM goals. Without further ado, Bill and Dr. Raven Baxter, take it away.
Raven, I am so glad to be sitting down to speak with you today for our very first Triangle TTX Talks. Today, we'll be covering topics related to advancing the careers of our next generation of women in STEM, a critical issue that we at MetLife remain both committed and dedicated. And I know you as an educator, but also with all your experience, you have a unique perspective on this. So Raven, good morning, and we're so glad to have you here.
Thank you, Bill. Good morning. I'm so excited for our talk today.
I'm excited to have you. It's like I have met you before and we just met a couple of minutes ago, but let's jump in and start with the origins of the story of Raven, the Science Maven. You shared with me that you've been raised by a single mother, which helped you shape your affinity for science. Can you talk to us more about that?
Yes. So I don't come from a family of scientists or people in STEM as a whole. And so when I was born, I came out of the womb with this natural curiosity for the world. And because there was really no one around me who had answers, particularly my mother, who was raising me on her own, she really encouraged me to engage in exploration on my own. And whenever I would ask her a question, she'd say, well, I don't know, you have to go find the answer. And ultimately, that's what science is all about. We're asking questions and finding answers. And so I was very invested in that process at a young age. And I decided that that's what I wanted to do for my whole life.
No, I love that. But you just mentioned curiosity. So you have that inherent curiosity. So what lessons did you gain from that experience as you're growing up and being always curious that help you prepare for the success that you have in STEM?
Absolutely, I would say resilience and determination. Because I had this exploding curiosity and I felt like I was on my own to explore, that meant that I had to really learn how to be a scientist very early on. My mother would take me to the library and say, go to the science section and read everything you can. I'll never forget when I was very young, we saw a rainbow at night. I think that was when my passion for science started. I'd never heard of a rainbow at night. Usually they come out during the day after it rains or when it's raining and the sun is out and the light is refracting through the raindrops and producing a rainbow. But at nighttime, that can happen as well. And so, but I was afraid. I told my mother, oh my gosh, is this, did aliens make this? Like, why is there a rainbow at night? And she said, no, sweetie, I don't think those were aliens, but I want you to go to the library and go figure it out because I don't know how there's a rainbow at night. And so I found a lot of joy in that. And I think that translates into my career today. Learning about the world around you is so exciting, and helping people to realize, you might not think that science is for you, but it's everywhere and you should definitely know about it. And it's fun to learn about it.
No, that makes sense. So I like the idea about always being curious and always learning new stuff. Any other lessons that you gained from that experience that really help you prepare for being successful in STEM?
I would say definitely I learned problem solving skills.
Mm.
Um, Mainly because I was an only child. And so if I had any questions, I was ultimately working through them on my own. I was learning how to be creative, and also how to adapt to different types of situations. And that's all been really invaluable in my STEM journey, ultimately.
That makes sense. You also told me that the name Raven, the Science Maven, was born with a no and a dream. So who told you no, and what was your dream?
Yes, so I ultimately pursued a career as a cell and molecular biologist, and I've worked in corporate as a drug discovery researcher, studying to find different cures and treatments for cancers and diseases. And I've also worked in higher education as a professor and academic advisor, all jobs that I really loved having. But there was this one particular instance when I was at my first day of work at one of these jobs, and I encountered one of my coworkers, and they didn't recognize me. I was in a faculty area. I was in the mail room where all the faculty go and check their mail. And she basically interrogated me in a really negative manner because she didn't believe that I was a scientist. She didn't believe that because of the way I looked and how I was presenting myself, really just as I look today, honestly, she could not interpret me as a fellow person in science.
Science.
And so she actually threatened to call the police. And that was very alarming because, we're coworkers and she doesn't quite
Of
realize
course.
that. And so from that, it really dawned on me that people don't understand really what the science field looks like and all of the different kinds of people that can be scientists and are scientists and all of the amazing things that we do that we care about, all of the wonderful diversity that we have, whether it's culturally, ethnically, or abilities wise, skills, to all these different ages. Like anybody can be a scientist. And so it became a priority for me that nobody else, especially the generations of scientists coming after me, would have that same experience of people mistreating them because they didn't have an appropriate understanding of what the science field actually looks like. And
Yeah.
so Raven the Science Maven was born because I wanted to not only teach science, I wanted to take my all of the technical and social things that I learned about science and bring it to the public and engage the public with science. But I also wanted to provide an authentic representation of myself in science so that I could encourage other people to recognize the importance of diversity in science and also how much fun it is, right? To just
Yeah. Yeah.
be yourself and then provide a space for others to be themselves in science as well.
Raven, this is very powerful, and obviously taking something that is a no, but not only not agreeing with the no, but creating a dream. I think that's a very powerful story. I've been in technology for a very long time, and I can assure you there's a lot of women that have encountered very similar no's over the course of their professional lives. Any advice that you can give them in terms of how do they take the no and how do you create a dream?
Yes, I think that people really should understand that no isn't necessarily a bad word. I think it can be a redirection. It can be a clarifying point, and it can also be a motivational
Mhm.
moment for you. I would say honestly, I love when people tell me no because me personally, I have a very strong sense of direction,
Mm.
and when someone tells me no, but I know that something is for me, I actually work harder to pursue that because I want to prove to you that I have a dream, I believe in that, and I can do this. And so I would encourage other women to stay curious, stay strong, and also just continue to believe in yourself and know that having a passion in science and tech is a very special thing, and nobody should be able to take that away from you. So move confidently and with purpose.
One thing that I love learning about the meaning behind the name Stembassy, which according to what I read your website, you combine the words of STEM and embassy. Can you walk us through in terms of what was the motivation behind its founding?
Yes, so Stembassy was founded in 2020 in January. So if you can imagine the climate of the world at that time, we were coming into the COVID-19 pandemic, and everything felt very chaotic, right? We were entering in the next few months a national lockdown, a series of lockdowns across the nation to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. And so we I gathered a group of talented scientists who happened to be all women, who were from all around the country, who were from different disciplines, to gather virtually weekly and discuss topics in science. And the goal with that was to increase public engagement with science during a time where the public was really being bombarded with new science terminology. We're learning about, antibodies. A lot of people are learning about antibodies for the first time. They're learning about vaccines and medical research, and at a fast pace. And so there were a lot of questions. And so Stembassy, we met weekly. It was a virtual live talk show, and we engaged with the public about science, and we brought on guests, and it was extremely fun. And now Stembassy has evolved. It's now turned into a project of the Science Haven, which is a 501c3 nonprofit that I founded. And Stembassy now is a project where we're continuing to connect the public with science, just in an even bigger and better way.
No, I love your original goal of this, but I like more that you're evolving it, and the whole idea of being able to completely educate and have brilliant people coming together and help broader audiences to understand some of those very, very important. One of the key takeaways, Raven, from our 2022 Triangle TechX conference was the importance around mentorship, allyship, and also sponsorship in diversifying our talent pipeline, and quite frankly, really inspiring the next generation of women in STEM. Any advice that you can give to our early career applicants in terms of finding the employer that really prioritizes those three pillars?
I think that we should be more intentional about what we want for ourselves. I think that the climate in STEM is changing a bit in a way where we are listening more to our communities, and we are understanding what diversity is. It's not just skin deep. We have people who are neurodivergent and have special needs. We have people who are physically diverse and have different physical abilities and needs, and different social needs. And so I think that the best thing that you can do when you're entering a career search and looking for your career is knowing who you are and what you need to be successful. Because ultimately, your employer wants to hire you because they know that you'll be successful. So make sure that you are finding a position that will support you as an individual so that you can be the most effective and the most proficient.
No, I like that. And the other thing that you said at the beginning is just be curious and learn. So look at the environment that we have today. A lot of our new candidates, they have so many tools in their disposal that was never available to really figuring out where do they want to go, why they should be choosing MetLife versus somebody else, and do they have what it takes not only for them to be able to succeed professionally, but really feel that they can belong in the company, and they do be force for good as well. So I like that. You mentioned a couple of times neurodiversity, and I have seen that you have spoken publicly about it, but you're using your platform to be vocal about neurodiversity. How that helped you to become a better STEM leader in your field?
So I love this question because it ties back into my core belief that we should all arrive as our unapologetic selves in STEM. And when we all do that, I think then we will be able to truly appreciate the diversity in the field and move the culture forward. So when I began my platform as Dr. Raven, the Science Maven, I realized that there was this perception that I was, yes, sure, I am brilliant and smart, but I think that people thought that I was perfect and that I never failed and
Mm.
that I didn't struggle. And so that's not true. And that's not authentic to who I am. I did fail a lot. I failed my first year of college. I had to start all over again after freshman year, and I ended up graduating with honors, and now I have a PhD, but that's not perfect, right? That's not ideal, but it made me who I am. And then also my day to day, it might look different from other people because I have ADHD, and so I have to adapt my work style and my daily life to accommodate that, and so that I can have the success that I have. And it's not easy because especially when you're an entrepreneur like me, you have to invent the strategies. But if you work at a workplace that has adequate support, ultimately that would be amazing. Um, but yeah, I think, being neurodivergent in STEM, I feel like it brings innovation, it brings adaptability, and those are both also invaluable assets to any STEM field.
No, I like that and definitely can relate to it. I can tell you that it takes a very dedicated approach from the individual. But I think what you said, which I think it's equally important, companies need to create the environment for people with neurodiversity to be able to succeed. And we've seen some of those results, which is unbelievable in terms of the creativity and the energy they can bring into our workplace. Now, I can tell you everything that you had said so far, just loving it. But I will not lie to you that one of the things that I love the most is how do you actually put making STEM more relevant to young people. And I watch you that you had created too. And I'm assuming by now it's very viral songs that you have created. So can you talk about what drew you to this approach to education and talk about some of the why this became so viral out there?
Yes, well, so I love music and I'm a dancer. I love anytime there's a great song playing, I love to get up and dance. And I feel the same way about music that I do about science. When I learn an interesting science fact, I want to tell everybody. I want to get up and, dance the facts around the universe so that everybody can figure out what I just learned. And so I tuned into that very early in my career, and I thought, well, those two aren't mutually exclusive, right? We can combine this excitement about music and science and make science music. And so I began to do covers, I guess you could call them parodies, using songs that I really enjoyed. So one of the songs that I did was called Body, and I made it a remix called Antibody to teach about the immune system
Yeah.
and vaccines. So as to educate people around what was going on in the pandemic and familiarize people with terminology. And I've repeated that approach for several other songs, and they've all been very viral. And it's extremely rewarding to get the feedback from the listeners and the viewers saying, like, I'm listening to this in the car. I've shown my students in my classes, and my kids listen to this at bath time. That's when I get a lot. Kids listening to my music and dancing at bath time. Yeah, I love it.
I love it. Any new songs coming up? Anything that you want to share with the broader audience?
Yes, I actually just finished writing a song about nuclear fusion.
Oh, wow.
So it's a very special song. It's a cover of a currently very popular song. So I'll leave that as a surprise. You can go check out my socials to find out what it is.
I love it. I love it. So thank you so much for very insightful discussion. But before we go, any parting thoughts that you want to leave the audience with, particularly the young women that it's out there, perhaps either curious or already passionate about STEM, and they wanted to follow kind of your success?
Yes, I think that I have this quote that I love. It's from Amy Poehler, and she said that great people do things before they're ready, and they
Mm,
do things before they know they can do it. And that has stuck with me since college. I was at a flea market and I saw that quote on a poster and I bought it and it's in my office hanging up. I look at it every day because I feel like that really describes how I got to where I am. I didn't have a blueprint to become
yeah.
Dr. Raven, the Science Maven. All I did was I continued to follow my passions. I skirted around the nose, right? And I found my yeses and I remained my number one cheerleader. And I also stayed very true to my desires for what I wanted to bring to the world, how I wanted to show up in the world. And that's how I got to where I am. So any young woman listening to this, if you're in STEM, I would say that you should stay curious, continue to seek out every opportunity, try things even if you're not sure that you'll like it. It'll help you learn about yourself, seek environments that are safe and nurturing for you, and definitely nurture your voice as well and learn how you're going to use that to ultimately change the world.
No, thank you. This is very powerful, Raven. So thank you so much for, first of all, spending the time with us, but also equally important for the insights. I am certain that there is going to be a lot young women, but also in the field and young girls that they kind of found a lot of those insights very inspirational, but also very authentic and very pragmatic. And we thank you for that. And thank you all for being here with us for these discussions. And we're looking forward to seeing you again for our next TTX talk soon. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much to Bill and Dr. Raven Baxter. You can find out more about her and her work and nonprofit at drravenbaxter.com. And of course, stay tuned to MetLife's YouTube and LinkedIn pages so you can keep up with more TTX Talks.